Welcome back to Old Celtic Tales by E M Wilmot-Buxton. Two of the impossible tasks are fulfilled. Scarcely had the 7 champions left the castle of Thornogriff Thistlehair when they were joined by the fair-haired son of the shepherd who had lived all his life in the chest. Eager to make a great name for himself, he implored them to let him accompany them, which accordingly they did. Then they turned their faces towards Arthur's castle. At evening time they reached the gates of a very great castle, the largest in the world, and as they pulled up their horses before it, an enormous black giant came out of the gate and looked at them very hard. They greeted him politely and asked whose castle this was. "'Tis the castle of Garnard the giant," he answered. They looked at each other with glee, for one of the appointed tasks was to obtain the sword of this very giant. Then they asked if he were used to treat strangers courteously. The black man shook his head. "No stranger ever entered that castle and came out alive," said he, "but ye have little chance of entrance, for no traveler is permitted to enter who knows no handicraft." The 7 champions, on hearing this, rode on to the entrance gate and called for admittance. The porter refused, however, saying that there was revelry within, and that no man set foot inside who did not bring his craft with him. But Kai declared that he was a burnisher of swords, and that no man could excel him at that trade, whereupon the porter went to report the matter to Garnard the giant. Now it so happened that Garnard had long wished for one who could brighten and clean his sword, so he bade the porter to admit him. So Kai entered alone and was brought before the giant, who ordered his sword to be brought to him. Then Kai drew out his whetstone, and, first asking if he required it to glitter with a blue or a white luster, he polished half the blade and returned it to the giant, saying, "How is that?" The giant was highly pleased. "If the rest of my sword can be made to look like that," said he, "I shall value it above all my treasures. But how comes it that so clever a craftsman is wandering about alone without a companion?" "But I have a companion," said Kai. "A cunning craftsman, too, though not at this work. Send, I pray you, and admit him, and the porter shall know him by this sign: the head of his lance shall spring into the air, draw blood from the wind, and return to its place again." Then the porter opened the gate, and Bedivere marched into the hall, ready for what might befall, and stood watching Kai as he went on polishing the sword. This being done, to gain more time he asked for the sheath, and he fell to mending it and putting in new sides of wood. Meantime, as he had hoped, while all the porters and followers of the giant stood gaping round him, the young son of the herdsman had managed to climb over the castle wall, and to help his companions over also, whereupon they were able to make their way to hiding places behind doors and pillars, from which they could see the company in the hall without being seen themselves. By this time Kai had finished both sword and scabbard, and stepping up to the giant's great chair, pretended to hand them to him. But as the giant was off his guard, he lifted the sword and brought it down on Garnard's neck, so that he cut off his head. Before his followers could lay hands on Kai and Bedivere, the knights rushed out upon them and slew them all. Then, having loaded themselves with gold and jewels, but above all with the precious sword, they set forth again for Arthur's palace. This time they reached it in safety, and having told their story, asked the advice of the king as to which of the 6 remaining quests they should first undertake. To seek out Mabon, the son of Maudron, was Arthur's decision, and for this undertaking he chose Uriel because he could understand the speech of both animals and birds, as well as that of all strange men, and Idwell because he was Mabon's kinsman, with Kai and Bedivere because they were known never to turn back from any adventure until it was accomplished. So these 4 set out upon their quest. Now, Mabon had been lost so long ago that not the oldest man on the earth, nor their great-grandfathers before them, had ever heard anything at all about him. But Idwell remembered that many birds and beasts live much longer than the oldest man, so they determined to seek out the oldest of these. "And who," said they, "could be older than the Ousel of Deepdale? Let us seek her help." So they made their way through a great forest till they came to a shadowy place, where on a small stone sat the Ousel of Deepdale. And her they implored to tell them if she knew anything of Mabon, son of Modron, who was taken from between his mother and the wall when he was only 3 days old. When I first came here, answered the ousel gravely, I was but a fledgling. On this spot where I now sit stood a smith's stone anvil. Since then no hand has touched it, but every evening I have pecked at it with my beak as I smoothed my feathers before sleeping. Now all that remains of it is this little pebble upon which I sit. Yet through all the years that have passed while this change took place, I have never heard of Mabon, the son of Modron. But do not despair. I will take you to a race of creatures who were made before me, and them ye shall inquire of again. Then she took them to a place where at the foot of an ancient oak lay the stag of the fern brake. Of him they once more asked the question, Dost thou know anything of Mabon, son of Modron, parted from his mother when 3 days old? The stag answered, When first I came here, this great forest was a vast plain, in which grew one little oak sapling. This sapling became in time an oak tree, and after its long lifetime gradually decayed until it became this stump. Now an oak tree is 300 years in growing, 300 years in its full strength, and 300 years in its decay. Yet in all this time I have never heard aught of Mabon, son of Modron. But since ye are Arthur's knights, I will take you to one who was made before my time. Then he led them to the Owl of Darkdingle. When first I came here, said the owl from his dark cavernous home when he heard their question, this valley was covered with a vast wood. It decayed away, and another grew up, and after that had withered away, a third, which now ye see. But never have I heard of the man whom ye seek. Yet since ye are Arthur's knights, I will take ye to the oldest creature in the world, to the eagle of the Aldergrove. So thither they went, and when he heard their question, the eagle answered, When I first arrived, there was a rock in this place so high that I could perch on its top and peck at the stars, and so long have I been here that now it is but a few inches high. Never have I heard of this man save once, and that was when I visited the Lone Lake. There I stuck my claws into a salmon, hoping to kill him for my supper, but he dragged me into deep water, so that I barely escaped with my life. But when I went with all my band to slay him, he sent ambassadors and made good peace with me, and came and begged me to take 50 fish spears out of his back. He, if anyone can, will tell you what you want to know, and I will be your guide to him. So they journeyed on till they reached a great blue lake, hidden in the depths of the forest, and there they found the salmon of the Lone Lake. He heard their question, and looking at them very wisely, replied, Such wrong as I have never found elsewhere have I found under the walls of Gloucester Castle, on the river Severn, up which I travel with every tide. And that ye may know it is so, come, 2 of ye, and travel thither upon my shoulders. Then Kai and Uriel came down to the water, and stood upon the shoulders of the salmon of Lane Lake, who swam with them down the Severn, and brought them under the walls of Gloucester Castle. Hark, said the salmon, and as they listened a voice was heard from the dungeon wall wailing in deepest sorrow and woe. Then Uriel cried, Whose voice is this that moans within this gloomy cell? Alas, wailed the voice, 'tis that of Mabon, the son of Modron, shut up eternally in the prison of Gwyn, son of Nith, king of Faery. Here I, the elfin huntsman, ever young, am shut out eternally from the sight of wood and fell and the joyful chase which is my birthright. Canst thou be ransomed with silver and gold? Asked Uriel. No, answered Mabon. If ever I am rescued from this cruel place, it must be by battle and strife. Then Uriel and Kai returned to their companions. Seeing that this was the kind of adventure that Arthur loved, they journeyed back to the king and told him all. So he prepared a great army and marched by land to attack Gloucester Castle. But while he fought before the gates, Kai and Bedivere had sailed down the river on the shoulders of the salmon of Lone Lake, and, finding the waterside portion of the castle unprotected, they broke through the wall and carried off Mabon, the son of Modron, and he returned with them to Arthur's court. That's the end of this story, brought to you by Schaefer Media Enterprises. Please check back for more exciting stories.
The Ultimate Question is a fully acted and produced audio fantasy story. When a young boy is found on a battlefield, it sets into motion a series of events that will have potentially catastrophic results unless that young boy, now a young man, can solve the puzzle that his mentor left him before he died. The Ultimate Question is available wherever you find podcasts and audiobooks. Visit uqstory.com for more information.
Independent short films are a welcome change from corporate entertainment. These films often press the boundaries of filmmaking, giving you a visual and intellectual experience that you can't get in mainstream stuff. The best place to find short independent films is Appealing TV, available on Roku and Amazon Fire. Find out more at appealingtv.com.
Please visit SchaeferMediaEnterprises.com for more of our projects and services. Thanks for listening.